Welcome to the Empower Hour. I am Alquamar, and this is
Hanifa.
We are your hosts for the Empower Hour, where we take 1 hour out of your busy week, and we come to you with impactful information, and we discuss it, things that affect our everyday lives, and we discuss them with your help and hash them out right here on air. So today's special topic is going to be on breathology. And I am quite sure most of you out there are saying to yourselves, what is that? Well, we have a special studio guest in the studio with us, Sister Ayo, and she's going to go over exactly what that is and how it benefits your life. But before we do that, we're going to let Sister Hanifa share with you some information about where we are.
Yes, we are in the studio at Everlasting Life, which is at 9185 Central Avenue. We tasty vegan meals here. Come out and enjoy. And there's also 2 other restaurants. There's Evolve Vegan Restaurant, which is at 341 Cedar Street, Northwest, and that's in Washington, D.C. And then we have Vegaritos, which serves mainly Mexican style meals, right? And so that Vegaritos is at 6904 4th Street Northwest, Washington, D.C. We do it the Deja Vu at Evolve. Okay, and at Evolve, there's what we call Deja Vu every Thursday from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. So it's a buy one, get one free cocktail. And again, it's at 341 Cedar Street, Northwest, Washington, D.C. Come out, enjoy good, healthy meals and good company and just an overall good, friendly environment.
All right. So what we're going to do, as we always do, we'll hop right into our discussion for today, and we'll loop back around midway into the program and share with you a little bit more information about what's going on here at the restaurant. Sister Ayo.
Hey.
Oh, we're so excited to finally have you on the Empower Hour.
I'm excited to be
and you're one of those individuals in the community that the who's who, anybody who knows anybody knows Sister Ayo. And, when we first put the call out, they were like, oh, my gosh, I got to tune in. I love her. I even got some messages on Instagram. People chimed in and was like, I love that woman.
Oh, thank you.
So, yeah, your name precedes you because you just do so much in the community, And so, yeah, it's like you're just one of those shining stars in our community. And so we appreciate all you do for us.
Thank you very much.
So, but you're here to talk to us about breathology.
Breathology,
yeah,
and stress, and what's happening with women.
Okay.
We're coming up with a big event in commemoration of the Million Women's March, and
you're on the planning committee for that.
well, Sister Wasita McKinley and myself are the it. Yeah, I don't know if we're the planning committee.
Oh, you are the committee.
Yeah, we're the committee. We're the quote-unquote it, right?
Yeah.
But we were somewhat the quote-unquote it 20 years ago, too.
Yes.
We were, I was blessed to be asked to be the regional coordinator for the Million Women's March. The sisters from Philadelphia, Sister Filet and Sister Asia, and Sister BJ, they came to D.C., and I was highly recommended by Brother Bay to serve in that capacity as the regional representative. And they were looking for someone that maybe, like you just suggested, that knew a lot of people, and who was committed to serving, which I am. And so I'm real humble about all this, what I do, because people who serve, I'm doing it because of I'm being told. Seriously, I'm following spiritual message to tell me to do the work that I do. So when you do that, you just don't get too carried away with yourself if you're attempting to do this work and be humble and be in service. And so I'm always a little like, oh wow, gee, thank you, but I just do the work. And half the time there are people who say, sister, you're a hard-working woman. Do you play? Do you rest? And I do. And I do because where there's a lot of stress and tension and trauma, unless you find ways to relax and calm and enable yourself to find spaces where you take mental health breaks. With a lot of tension and stress, it is very difficult to be creative. I kind of don't know where to look. I don't know. I want to look at you, beautiful women, your sisters. I want to get inspired by you all. So, okay, hi, okay. I didn't know. I was looking at them. They're so gorgeous, sincere. And so my affirmation is that I've been given some charges. I guess that's the way to look at it. I've been charged to do certain things. And one thing that I am charged to do that I'm probably more excited about than anything else is being able to help people to master what we do every single moment of our waking lives.
Right. So tell us about breathology.
Yeah. What exactly is breathology?
Breathology.
I'm sure this is what the people want to know.
Yes.
What
Okay.
is breathology?
All right. And then we're gonna wrap it all up.
Okay.
We're gonna make certain that hopefully. When I was on the show before, I'm trying to remember with Brother Brute if we actually demonstrated what effective breathing is, and I would love to do that on this show.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's one thing to talk about it, right? But it's totally different to really experience effective breathing. And breathology is the art and science of breath awareness, the understanding of breath techniques that enhance the spirit, mind, and body, and that there are mechanics to breathing. Just like there are mechanics to building a house or keeping your car in tuned and mastered well. The thing that we do and don't think about until we can't breathe is the very aspect of our being that we really might find helpful to spend some quality time mastering it, learning the mechanics of this thing we in and out, in and out, in and out. Don't think about it until we can't breathe.
Yeah, and I think we take that for granted
We
because
take
we
it for-
do it. I mean, it's like we wouldn't be here if we didn't do it.
That's right.
All day, every day.
All day, every day.
But it never comes to mind.
Yes, it doesn't come to mind until most of us find ourselves in a situation where we can't breathe. And unfortunately, if we find ourselves in that situation, that means that we're generally in a stressful situation where can't breathe could lead us to crossing over or getting into trouble or really hurting ourselves. Every single minute, every single breath that we don't take, we're actually hurting ourselves. We're actually killing ourselves. If you want to really get down and dirty with it, we're actually killing ourselves. And so to only be aware of something so significant, it's a real travesty. And those who suddenly discover how important this wonderful breath of life is, only when they can't breathe, you'll find asthmatics, you'll find people who drop into a swimming pool, or even a small child who might fall in a bathtub. All of those are situations that then, when we can't breathe, we are struggling and fighting, and we are leaving. We're leaving. It takes anywhere from 5 to 6 minutes at most without breath in our body before the brain is actually going brain dead. And around about 7 minutes, the brain begins to swell and increase the capacity of the cranial. And the cranial can't expand. And so the brain pressing up against the skull bones create further damage. And within about 8 minutes, we're gone on home to glory.
Oh,
So,
interesting.
I have a question. How did you get here? Take us on that journey. How did you get to
Everybody
where
wants to know how I
you're-
got here.
Yes, please.
First, let me say thank you for the opportunity to share. And thanks again, Brother Baruch and Life Media, for giving me this platform. I think I've been on this show 3 times. I think the first time he started, Brother Brooks started this media platform, and I remember that was one of the questions he asked. So I'm going to make sure I don't take as long to answer this time because it's a compelling story.
Okay.
Let me see how I can, it's in my book, I should say that. That shortens it all out. So I have a book called Applied Breathology, and I have a book called The Black Love Book. So how I got to where I am came to both of those. You're taking a story, and we're going to try to shorten it. It primarily does relate with the fact that I did notice that I wasn't breathing a lot. And I noticed as I started taking classes in the early 70s, around about 1971 to be exact, where I was blessed to take class in transcendental meditation. And at the base of every conscious raising activity, there's the breath. And I had read about the importance of breath with meditation, and so I said, let me try it, because I knew I was holding my breath a lot. I knew I struggled a lot with the sense of feeling numb all the time, and I didn't understand why. And I had gone through 1970, where I ran away from D.C., went overseas, married my high school sweetheart, got introduced to cannabis and pill taking and all those kind of things. And I found that worked kind of well for me. I hadn't done any of that before I left home, but when I went there, I got exposed to all of those wonderful, actually enhancing types of essences. And I went for it. And when I got home, when I came back from overseas with my Air Force husband, we continued to go for it. And for a number of years, my husband continued to struggle with stronger drugs, eventually moving from, I guess, marijuana, cannabis to heroin. But we managed to stay together, and we stayed together for close to 9 to 10 years. And the relationship was a fascinating relationship. We had 2 children. And both our boys, we could really see that there was a challenge, there was a struggle. We were high school sweethearts, but here we were growing up, we were trying to grow as friends. But we were both struggling with addictions. And for me, I was in school, in and out of school, going to college. And I studied human services. And so I was sharing with the people that I was working with in various youth entrepreneur programs or student cultural programs. I was sharing a whole lot about culture and history and my love for people of African descent. And there were people who would often tell me, why is it that you seem like you're so calm? And I would say, no, I'm not. I'm a barrel of energy, and I've got all this going on. And half the time I'm in a back room, I'd be on the radio, and I started a newspaper, and I was doing all kinds of different things. It appeared like I was calm, but I was all over the place. And I was really struggling. And I began to see I was really depressed. And half the time I was drinking and drugging and holding my breath.
So that's interesting. You found yourself in a depressed state, even though, because when I hear depression, the first thought comes to my mind is laying at home in the bed, not wanting to get up, crying in the dark.
Yeah.
But in your case scenario, you said you were active.
I was a very active, depressed person.
Interesting.
Yeah, and there are a lot of active, depressed people. That's the challenge with depression. And it's the challenge also with stress. The more I would do, I would find myself worn out, tired, just overwhelmed. And we get in a unfortunate pattern where we are pushing ourselves to go, go, go. So I was actually using stimulants to help me go. But then you crash. And when you crash, as a depressed person, you usually crash. I mean, it's not just I'm tired. You may tend to go into that deep, sometimes described abyss, that it seems like there's no way out to life, that the world seems like it's crashing over your head. You are attempting to reach outwardly if you can, but it's difficult to even explain to anybody what you're going through, because most of the time you yourself aren't exactly sure what you're going through.
Okay.
So this dichotomy that I was expressing to my community, there was people, oh, Ayo, Sister Ayo, you just all over the place, you just doing all these wonderful things, but inside I was in a room just pulling a blanket over my head. And but when I would come out, I would really come out, right? And so part of it was my drinking and drugging, it helped. Another part of it was just that you play a game with yourself and you wear a mask and you do, I guess, what you think you must do to survive. And that's what I was doing.
Wow.
So that went on for years. And in the process, my marriage disintegrated. But in the process, I discovered breathing.
Okay.
Not just a meditative breath, but I discovered that the breath of life, when you apply it in different formats, it would do different things. So I went from transcendental meditation to shiatsu. There's a breath aspect of shiatsu and body work. I took certifications in Tai Chi 1 and 2. You know, I got certified in Reiki 1 and 2. Then I got certified in Reiki 3 as a master Reiki practitioner. And I got certified in 1996 in transformational breath work. And transformational breath work was the breath technique that totally shifted my energy. And it came right at the point where I couldn't take myself anymore. I said, I can't look at myself in the mirror anymore. I'm living this hypocritical lie for my community, and I just can't do it anymore. I've got to find something. So I asked the Creator, please give me what I need to help me feel whole, help me feel healthy, help me feel really alive. And not a false stimulation, but a real empowered sense of feeling stimulated.
Right. The
And
endorphin.
the breath came. Yes, yes. Actual natural, right? Endorphins. Actual natural dopamine, right?
Right.
You know, not a medicated or
Right.
self-medicated outside impact to force me to feel good. So the breath of life came to me in a certification that was 96 credit hours, and it changed my life. In the sessions, I struggled fighting something, didn't know what I was fighting, and at the end of the sessions, what was described as the subconscious memory, the below the surface memory, came forward. And this is a component of this particular type of transformational breathing technique. And I saw that I was fighting my father. And that the numbness I felt was the fact that I had stomached and sandwiched for years the reality that I had been abused as a child from about 8 to maybe 13.
Oh, wow.
And my dad would come into my room and touch me inappropriately and try to do other things.
Wow.
And all started, I didn't even feel the pain of it until I was somewhere around about 24. So I was drinking, drugging, trying to feel, but I had sandwiched. I was in frozen mode.
Interesting.
I was in total frozen mode for
That was
years.
that was one of the things that I was going to ask.
I know it's hard for me to do that, but I'm going to try. So.
One of the things that I was going to ask, which you pretty much touched on, is what causes us to hold our breath. And from the sound of it, it sounded like the holding of your breath started at a very young age.
Yes.
Once you experienced that trauma. So can you speak about that? What are some of the things that causes us, outside the trauma, that may cause us to hold our breath and not even be aware that we're doing it?
That's an excellent question. Many people start holding their breath prior to their coming out into the world. There are babies, infants who are holding their breath. There have been pictures that were taken of infants in the womb who are actually sucking on their thumb and holding their breath, tense and tight in the womb. And we talk about the imprints that happen to all of us prior to conception. Some of those imprints create lasting memories into our cellular being, and they can occur due to stress and trauma. Just as babies come out of the womb, and many of them have learned words while they're in the womb, we tell mothers to sing to the babies. We tell mothers to touch the babies and hug and love the babies before they come out. The same situation is very exact, that there are children who come out who have heard the stresses and fighting, and some mothers have been hit carrying their children and threatened, and Lord knows any amount of stressful concepts can pass across the placenta. And it is a scientific understanding that babies hear and babies process. And so there's stresses that happen, unfortunately, for some babies pre-birth. Then for their children who their first trauma and their first stress is in their being born. They are children who have horrific births. And I'm a mother who has a son who had a very horrific birth. And so by then I was studying breath, and I understand how the breath process, his actual birth process, coming down the womb, being pulled with forceps, very stressful, very stressful. He, as an embryo, he probably thought he was not going to make it. So he was stuck in my womb, and he had to be pulled down. And in that process, the lasting imprint, still today, there's a part of him that constantly feels that he's being attacked, or he doesn't always trust people trying to help him, because when he got helped, being pulled down with forceps, it came with great pain, and he almost felt, the emotional embryo thinks, am I going to survive this?
Wow.
This little narrow passage. So,
I even heard a scenario somebody spoke recently about, even when they are out of the passage of the womb into life, the first thing they see is big, bright, blinding lights in their eyes when they've been in the dark for so long, and that's stressful.
Right. I mean, that's extremely stressful. They've been in the dark. The baby's been in the dark for 9 months. And so they have glaring lights. They have coldness as an environmental influence, where they've been in this warm, wet environment. So now also they come out into a super bright, arid, dry environment where they were breathing water. They were breathing oxygen through the water for 9 months. Now the body has to shift in an instant, and you're suddenly breathing air, dry air from the environment. And that is extremely stressful for the embryo right at the beginning of life. There are children who are grasping.
Wow, shock therapy.
Shock. Can barely
treatment.
accept all that dry air.
Wow.
Then you add doctors who see that shocked, traumatized child, and there are doctors who still shake children, and there are babies who, they don't immediately breathe when they come out. They want to sit and be snuggled and rest a little bit more. They've gotten real cozy in that 9-month warm environment. But now suddenly they've got to, survive in this really austere, cold environment. And some of them don't immediately start breathing. So where we used to take the child and leave the tube, the umbilical cord, now the new concept of the lotus birth hopefully will bring back that reality that there are some children who still should be connected with that umbilical cord for a moment.
Right.
9-10 days.
Right.
You know.
It naturally falls off.
It naturally falls off.
But doctors cut it.
They cut it. And there's a whole lot of energy that is lost from that exchange that was previously there. So that's stressful. And I mean, on and on. Doctors are screaming, and nurses aren't always that calm. We hope that they are. But, I've been in the environment with 4 of my grandchildren. I actually gave birth to one of my grandchildren at home. We didn't get to the hospital in time. And I saw that child's birth compared to the other grandchildren's birth in hospitals. Even though I was a little excited, I was still really, really calm. But I have seen doctors and nurses at those grandchildren's bedside next to their moms, and you could tell that they're really stressed, they're tired, they're worn out, and so all of our stresses translate to each other, they play to each other. So those are just the birth things. Okay, now we get out here in the world, right? Okay, and Lord knows, I mean, between earthquakes, hurricanes, mass killings, police shooting black men and women, and on and on and on. We need to not be in the dark and not think that our children and babies don't listen to this information that we are sitting here listening to on the news. And so children hear, and children get stressed. And when we are in fear, we hold our breath. It is a scientific and physiological part of our survival mechanism that we hold our breath. It helps us not feel pain.
Sister Ayo, I have a question.
Interesting.
So I have 2 questions because I want to get into the different formats for different things that you spoke on, so you can touch on some examples of those. But I wanted to ask, are we not breathing, most of us not breathing? I mean, are we breathing incorrectly and are completely unaware of it? Should we be taking longer breaths than we're currently taking? Because truth be told, most of us, we breathe very, very short breaths.
Shallow.
Yes.
Yeah, very shallow.
Yes, the terminology is called shallow breathing, or limited breathing, or restricted breathing. It's all 3 because those 3 things occur. We breathe on average 20,000 times a day, anywhere from 15 to 18 times a minute. And unfortunately, we have studied, and we've been blessed to have been given plenty of research that documents that somewhere between 9 out of 10 people are not breathing efficiently and effectively.
Wow.
9 out of 10. And as I continue to do my own informal work, I am planning to put in for a grant somewhere because I want to be able to get this further scientific documentation as to how we can retrain people how to breathe. Because I have definitely seen that with the health fairs I go to, all of the different programs I go to, there is a little shift. I would say maybe now 8.5 out of 10 people. And I think it has something to do with when we first started this work in the 70s. And now there's been this proliferation of yoga studios.
Yes.
I think that's the only thing I can think of.
Okay.
In addition to maybe me running around the world talking about breathing, and not just me. There's many, many other people who have studied the reality that our breathing is the essential aspect of the best life we can have. So, we're out here doing the work.
Right.
So we're gonna do the promos, yes. And then when we get back, let's get into the different formats and the different things that they're good for. And then maybe we can do practice some deep breathing.
Yeah, let's do some practice.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Do some practice.
Okay, so we're here again at the Everlasting Life Studio, Restaurant and Lounge, inside of the Elife Media Studio. Right here at Everlasting Life, and you are watching the Empower Hour, and we have our special studio guest Ayo, Sister Ayo here, and she's talking to us about breathing, breathology. We have a few other things going on here at the restaurant that you should take notice about. Our new event that happens each and every Thursday night is the Children's Night right here. Children eat free. Not only do they eat free, but you can bring them in for different activities and things, food, fun, educational activities, right here again at Everlasting Life. And that event starts at 6, from 6 to 8 p.m. They do really fun things for the children, so bring them on out for that. Black Wall Street Renaissance. Every first Saturday of the month, we take the dining in area here and we fill it with vendors, and we have ourselves a big bonanza, a big bazaar, shopping bazaar. We have special guests to come out, and we do different events like this past Black Wall Street Renaissance. We had Master a Chef to adorn us, and he came out and he shared with us the healing qualities that are in stones and crystals, and how they heal your body, what type of stones heal your body, things of that. And he even shared with us some ways to create jewelry out of stones. And so every month is a different theme. Again, that's the Black Wall Street Renaissance, first Saturdays of every month. That's an all-day affair. It runs from 12 to 6 p.m. right here again at Everlasting Life. Each and every Friday, we do what's called a dinner and a movie, followed by a group discussion. That starts from 7 to 9 p.m. So we'll take a new documentary. Normally it's a documentary, and we'll air it, and then we have a discussion about what we just aired right after the documentary is over. And it's always an impactful discussion. Very bright people in the room to share their points of view, and a lot of times there's points of view I've never even considered before. And so come on out and get the information. It's always quality information, a lot of things that we don't normally hear and see and know about in the mainstream. So we air those type of documentaries here. Yep. And I believe that is it. So that's it. So let's jump right back into our discussion on breathology.
Yes, and so we were talking, we wanted you to touch on the different formats and the different things that those particular formats are good for. Like, give us some examples.
Okay, well, let me end the story, what happened to me in my little life adventures, that I did stop drinking and drugging. I'm about, I guess I stopped around about, 2001, around about the time of 9/11.
Did you stop cold turkey, or
I use a method that I created.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, I used a method that I created. There was a combination of breathing techniques to detox and cleanse myself. And I studied addiction since I was working with addicted populations as well as young people. And so I knew certain concepts that I had been sharing with them that I really began to use on myself. So I did a whole detox cleansing routine that consists of using Epsom salt and a lot of rest, a lot of water. You have to do a lot of flushing of your cells. And I did a great deal of understanding about what happens with the neural net in your brain as it relates to desiring a substance to the point that you would hurt yourself to get that substance. And it relates to how our brain has all of these circuitry that nets together, and they form almost a system of information. And in between the system of information, these synapses begin to get very, very accustomed to certain things. It could be food, it could be a behavior, and it could be a substance. It could be an environmental influence, but the way to change any behavior is to find a way to break through the netting of those sequential thoughts. And when you understand that, to break through an addiction becomes very easy. So I had learned a technique that if you inhale and hold the breath and then release it, it actually intervenes with the chemistry of the body, and it enables oxygen to be absorbed into the cellular level to then be used when the cells need it. And so we don't store enough oxygen in our cells. We have to continue to replenish the oxygen. We lose it. And so if you're trying to end an addiction, you need to have a huge increase of oxygen, because you want to actually more or less overwhelm your cells with this wonderful oxygen. This is the meal that the cells will really grasp, and it will begin to push out toxic waste. So that means every time we take a good breath, we're actually detoxifying the body. And if you have a lot of toxic waste, emotional toxic waste, thoughts are things just like food are things. And so this emotional toxic waste was actually, I found I was pushing out the old energy, and I was absorbing in this new emotional chemistry. And so I healed myself. And so I still share that technique with others. I've been very excited about helping support people who are addicted with not only substance abuse, but because I was physically abused, the toxic significance can convert into a woman accepting lots and lots of relationships in her feeling unworthy because she was abused. And so that becomes a toxic, traumatic, repetitious experience for some people who've been abused. And we actually, some of us get addicted to the concept of being abused. We emotionally just accept that this is, how we're supposed to live our lives. And so there are breath techniques, Sister Hanifa, that can wake us up in the morning, can put us to sleep at night, can cleanse cellular energy, can do transformative processes. There's breath techniques that help us run faster and sing louder and speak clearer. There are breath techniques that enable us to not have pain. The techniques enable us to have a better sexual relationship where we're able to possibly hold our orgasms, or we can increase the orgasmic energy. There are as many breath techniques as there are people in the world, because it all relates to the shape of our nose, the shape of our throat, and larynx, or what we call the air passage, as well as our chest cavity. And because my chest cavity is smaller, my volume of oxygen is less than perhaps someone like maybe Brother Baruch, who's a big guy. He's he's a good sized guy. He's over 6 feet tall. So his chest cavity is in the capacity for him to have the maximum amount of oxygen to give that body the energy that it needs. So that means that all of us need to be cognizant of working with this tool, because the Creator knows, but we do lots of things to do not enhance the natural ability to bring in the maximum amount of oxygen.
Interesting stuff.
This is a big subject.
What comes to my mind now is like the nose and the shape of the nose in different regions, and people who and how that affects the breathing.
Oh yes. In the book, The Science of the Breath, Swami Rami was one of my earlier teachers. Reading his book and just studying, just eating it up, devouring. And he talks about the shape of the nose, the bridge, the nostrils, the small incisions that we inhale in our nostrils compared to our mouth. Much more air can come in our mouth compared to our nostrils. And how than if you are a runner and you're trying to get maximum oxygen. You aren't going to sit there and breathe slow, relax through your nostrils. No, that's when you're going to open your mouth up and okay? So anybody who tells your audience that you're not breathing correctly, you tell them that Sister Ayo said there's no correct or incorrect way to breathe because we're all breathing, which means we're all alive. But what we have helped people to better frame this discussion from the perspective that there are more effective breath techniques, and they are breath techniques that we must learn to use them as a tool, that you can't use the same hammer tool to break through a wall that you can use a hammer tool to pull the end up of a nail.
Right.
You have to know which tool or which part of the tool you use for the outcome. Our breathing is the exact same way. So Swami Rami, when he talked about the shape of the nostril, I likened that to poor brother Michael. That when Michael Jackson started getting nose jobs, to me, his personality changed. And Swami Rami, when I read how important that we take into the understanding that the Creator has given everything to you for you. And when you start shifting and reconfiguring, that of course it's going to do something organically to the structure that has been given to you.
Interesting.
And so he literally describes how emotional shifts of consciousness, psychiatric breakdowns, disharmony in the person's being. Many things can occur once someone starts playing with the shape of their nose.
Interesting.
And I would imagine if you play with the shape of almost any part of your body.
Right.
Because I've lost my gallbladder, and sometimes I get ghost gallbladder responses, and my gallbladder's not there. You know, because the cells never forget.
Yes, the uterus being removed. That's
right.
another one.
That's
It's
another
like
one.
You still
Right.
get the symptoms
Yes,
of
you do.
PMS.
Yes, you
even
do.
though you don't,
Even
you're not
though you
having
don't have
the
it,
cycle.
yes,
You
yes.
get the symptoms.
Yes, you do.
It's interesting.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Our cellular makeup never forgets anything.
Never
It
forgets.
has an intelligence. And
Memory,
so when you have been cutting into the body, the cellular area, we're screaming down there, some of you sisters, when you have a C-section, you know. And so therefore, you know, if you're finding you having some pain on your side and you don't understand why, some of that could be just the cells still remembering the trauma and the pain.
Wow.
So we use techniques of breathing to help the cells release the cellular memory. Actually infusing those cells with so much oxygen that it sends, I would say, spaces in between those synapses that broaden the space or shifts them in different ways, detoxifies them, and helps them to become more in balance.
Interesting.
So I see, I do a session now based on my transformational breathing training that I renamed it Transcendence Breathwork, because it was important to take from Europeans what they had taken from us and bring it back to people, melanated people, and add techniques that relate to our essence. And so I added drums, I added movement, I added all kinds of bells and chimes and vibrational energies of screaming and cathartic, just shaking, so that we could get through that particular breath session. It is equal to 1 45-minute session is equal to 2.5 years of talk therapy. And so when you add those other aspects of release, people come out of my sessions, some of them hardly can walk. They, you know, they're it's real cute. But I mean, they're like almost off balance, right? They're off balance.
The equilibrium.
Their equilibrium's off balance.
Sister Ayo,
And
let's
they make dramatic shifts.
I know we have a little bit more time.
Yes,
so I
our
wanted to get into
goes
like the
fast.
demonstration piece.
Yes,
Like
certainly.
yeah.
So the foundation of better breathing starts with the first breath that as children we use universally. And that first breath is a diaphragmatic breath. And the way to get to a diaphragmatic breath, or what's called a deep breath, or some people call it a conscious breath, I encourage people to put one hand on their chest and take the thumb of the opposite hand and connect right at their belly button. And take the other 4 fingers and stretch just below their bellies, like I say, loving, hugging their bellies, right? And I know you all are on air, but if you want to close your eyes so you can focus a little bit, and allow yourself to focus attention on your breathing. Feel the breath of life coming in and going out, and coming in and going out. Allow yourself to breathe in and breathe out. Just allow yourself a moment to breathe. Put every thought aside, but if a thought comes in your mind, just allow it. The mind always thinks. The mind never stops thinking. There's always brain activity, so just let yourself relax as you breathe. And with each breath that you take, I want you to just observe which hand is going up and down on your chest. If the hand on your chest is going up and down, and I'm going to turn to look at my sisters here, then you're one of the 9 out of 10 breathing shallow in your chest. I see my sister Al, come on. And then if you're breathing hand on the belly, hand going up and down on the belly, then you have been able to retain a deep belly breath. The breath that is deep in the body is called a deep breath, a belly breath, only because it is deep, low, in the lower part of our lower lung. So allow yourself to change and shift both of you. Inhale into the hand on the belly. Inhale, let the belly come out. There you go, sister, come on. Exhale, let the belly come in. Inhale, belly out. Sister Nifa, try to tell your chest to be still. Let your belly do the work. It's not the easiest thing, is it? Inhale into the hand on the belly, but once you regain the practice, it becomes extremely easy. Exhale, let the belly come in. Very good, Sister El, come on. Inhale, the belly comes out. Exhale, the belly goes in. Just in the reverse of what most of us are doing. So we're going to bring you out of this on the count of 3. Slowly open your eyes. 1, 2. Slowly come back here to the studio on 3.
Wow.
Wow.
My breathing is just so off. It's interesting that when you finally pay attention,
Yeah, it's like, wow, to the total opposite.
Right, mine was going the opposite of what she was saying. I'm like,
yeah.
But I could
chest is
feel
still
more
going.
air coming into my body.
Good.
I could
Right.
feel
Yes.
more air.
Yes, I could see more air.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm over here on the other side. I can see more air.
Wow.
But I could also see the restricted breathing too.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, I've of course trained myself, but most of us, if we spend time walking around like this, or you can take both hands and cross your stomach right at your belly button. Now, you probably can't see me, but if you cross your arms right at your belly button and just connect with both sides of your arm, like you're loving and hugging yourself, you know, giving yourself a hug, okay? I encourage people to spend a little more time for about a month, once they relearn how to breathe, to walk around like that. Because then you'll be really aware of how often we're not really breathing.
Interesting. And you know what I recognize just on my own observation, that whenever I get stressed, I take short breaths like that,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
and it's only in stressful situations
Yes.
when I do that.
Yes.
Is there a reason for that?
It sounds like your body is trying to breathe deeper, and it's clearing the air passage. Because the body, again, knows what it needs. We just don't give the body what it needs, right? But the body knows generally what it needs. The body knows that when you do sort of like a short sigh, that's what you're doing.
Right.
You're doing sign breathing, right?
Right.
Okay. You're not fully releasing the breath from the lower lung when you do that. You're breathing, you're releasing from the upper part. You can actually put your hand here on the upper top part of your chest. Now do that. Right, okay. So air is coming into the top part of your body, it's stopping here, the top part of your lung. If the airflow doesn't go to the lower lung, we are finding doctors have opened up folks who have trouble with their breathing and have seen very gray matter in the lower part of the lung because there's been no flow of oxygen on a regular, consistent basis.
Wow.
And it's a great cause of every single issue that we have. Limited breathing is the cause for an identified 60 or more disorders, where stress is a part of those disorders. So when we don't breathe, our body stresses. When we stress, our body holds the breath. So it's this vicious cycle that 20,000 times a day, imagine something that we're doing 20,000 times a day, so totally ineffective that we're not getting the end result of what we are to receive from those 20,000 times a day. Maximum oxygen, maximum cellular food. And so we're limiting that, and so therefore every kind of disease from cancer to emphysema to diabetes, high blood pressure. I have a whole list of them. I didn't want to get too far, but I mean depression, stress, trauma, all of the mental issues. They're finding that limited breath not going up to the brain is a big cause of that. So of course stroke, heart issues, heart having to physically push harder, faster, longer to circulate the oxygen around the cells. And so therefore we are weighing out the heart, trying to force the heart to push the limited amount of oxygen that we're receiving. Physical appearances, skin is clearer, more energy, we're more mentally focused, all of those wonderful things happen.
Have a longevity of life, period.
Longer, anti-aging, total longevity in life, better mobility, being able to move upstairs better able to dance on that dance floor, so that's part of the reason I wanted to get back to breathing better, because I was always a dancer, and here I was being stuck out on that floor and huffing and puffing. Now at age 66, I can outdance half the people. I'd say most of the people in most dance floor rooms. I'm generally one of the last people on the dance floor.
Wow.
And everybody's saying, "What are you doing?" And I said, "All I'm doing is drinking water and breathing."
I have a question, two questions. There are people who, when people begin to really get into this deep breathing, can they expect it to bring up things that they completely forgot about?
Sometimes it does.
Okay. And what about people who are, I'm going to try to say the word right, breatharians?
Breatharians. Breatharians.
Breatharians, yes.
Right.
Is that, can you speak about that? Because they say that that's where you get your life.
Well, they're living on breath.
They're living on breath,
right.
Exactly. Have you heard about them?
Yeah.
Okay, I know.
Yes, I have heard something about that.
Okay.
Yeah,
Is this possible?
Yeah, it's possible. Oh, yeah. People.
But they say they don't eat.
Right.
No, they don't eat. They live on breath.
On breath.
Yeah, I did hear that.
Dick Gregory was the first person I had the chance to read his book, and he talked about breatharians. Sometimes I add a little more into it than I need to, but breatharians. And breatharians are people more often living in high altitude climates like the Himalayas and Alps and things like that, who have been able to find that they really can live off of oxygen. So they're
because
breathing.
It's water in air.
Yeah, everything about oxygen, H2O.
H2O,
yeah,
right.
Oxygen is in our water, right? So you're right. You can live off of breath, water, air. But the issue is in this country I had not heard of anyone making the effort to sustain their life, but for a very short time as a breath-taker.
So,
Because
air
we
is
still have such poor air
Yeah.
quality in the United States. And so it seems like it's in places where at least the air quality is still strong enough. There's enough oxygen in the air to be extracted to therefore feed the cells.
Interesting.
However, I have found, again, study and research, is that we're concerned we have poor air quality, but that means we really do need to get our breathing together.
Yeah.
Because if you have poor
Even more so.
environment, you better make the best use of your environment as
Yeah.
possible. And as I'm watching hurricane-stricken folks in Puerto Rico and other parts of the Caribbean, I remember that the person who lived the longest in the hurricane that happened a couple of years ago had fallen in a pocket of air. And for 29 days, he was the last person who was pulled out of the rubble in
Is it Haiti?
in Haiti.
In Haiti,
Yeah,
right.
that's what I was
Oh, I
trying to get to
remember that.
Haiti. Right.
I
It was,
remember
the
that.
last man who was pulled out of the rubble in Haiti had lived for 29 days, and he expressed that he was able to pulse his breathing so that he could pull some oxygen out of the environment. He had no idea how long he would be there, but he figured it out intuitively that if he just kind of took in a little breath and sustained himself and took in a little bit more. So, I was all into that story.
Right.
I said, oh, yeah, this just proves another one of the points that if we have poor air filtration, we better get these filters on our body working efficiently and properly, because we are living in times where we have no idea when we'll need to use even the preventive aspect
I
And
agree.
since
of
you
our
mentioned
breathing.
that, we're
Yes.
in the DMV area, where can someone, like myself, because clearly my chest wasn't doing what it was supposed to
No,
do.
it wasn't.
It was not. Where would someone like that I'm really interested in this, right?
Right.
And so where would I go if I wanted to take a class
Yes.
or learn how to do this? Yeah.
I'm
correctly?
excited that you're excited. Yeah, I get excited when I see people excited. Well, just continue to follow my website. That helps. I have subscribers, so you might want to subscribe. You'll get to know wherever we are in the world. Our website is www.positiveenergyworks.com. 1 E that connects positive with energy. POSITIVENERGYWORKS.com. You just look up my name too, Ayo Handy-Kendi. You'll be directed to my website. I am conducting a breath management class through Maryland National Capital Parks and Planning
Oh, cool.
on October the 17th, 19th, 24th, and 26th, and repeating the 4 series of the class in November 7th, 9th, 14th, and 16th. And it is at the best community price going, so I won't tell you, but yeah, call Maryland Parks and Planning, or if not, go on my website, and the number's there. We'll be heading to New York November the 11th, and in D.C. we'll be at the IKG Thurgood Marshall Center December the 20th from 7 to 9, talking about how to breathe through the holidays, because there's a lot of stress. And then on Saturday, October the 21st, I'm blessed to be helping support the 20th anniversary of the Million Women's March and Sisters United,
Yes,
which is
Sister
right here.
Rosita.
Yeah, right here
Yeah.
at Greater Beulah Baptist Church, Saturday, October the 21st from 4 to 7. It's free and open to the public. We hope
Yay.
everybody can come. And I will be having sisters breathe through a ritual reconciliation, which I'm also blessed to be the founder of that ritual, so we can get real, true sisterhood. So in relearning how to breathe, we may do some release work there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Some
So
healing work.
And this is
Yeah.
October 24th?
October
At
the
the
21st.
21st
Yes.
at Beulah Baptist Church?
Yes, Greater Beulah Baptist Church, 6056 Old Central Avenue.
Beautiful.
So we'd love for
What
everyone
time
to
is-
come
what
out.
time is
It's from 4 to 7.
Okay.
4 to
Okay.
7. And, I breathe with people by phone. I breathe with people on the radio. I breathe with people wherever I see them. So feel free, call me. I give a free consultation.
You can give the,
And my telephone number is 202-667-2577, 202-667-2577. I'm on a breath movement and a mission to hopefully change the world and empower the world one breath at a time. Because it is power in our breath.
Well, family, that is our Empower Hour, and this was some powerful information today. So we thank you so much, Mama Ayo. Thank you for, we finally got her on. Yeah. So we know you guys got some information out of this program today. Please share it. Please share. So if there was one thing that touched you, then you can pretty much be assured that somebody else out there needs this information too. So please do your part and share the information. You never know what can come, how helpful and beneficial it could be for somebody else. Yes. And until next week, family, we will see you guys. This is again the Empower Hour every Wednesday from 2 to 3 p.m. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care. Peace.